We know that National's plan is to bring almost all beneficiaries into one job seeker benefit, where work testing obligations will apply, even for many of those who are sick, injured and disabled. A small group of people will be protected from this, but we are very nervous about where that line of protection will actually be drawn, and they're certainly looking at a very, very low number of people being protected in that way. One of the worst things about these reforms is that the government uses the language of disability empowerment to promote the daily harassment and intimidation of beneficiaries, something which is already happening, as I'm sure some of you in this room are all too aware, and that very frequently inside Work and Income and other government offices right now. I fear that this terrible situation is only going to get worse. And this is why the Disability Law Centre is so badly needed. Not just for the practical help it can give people who are struggling with work and income and other parts of the government bureaucracy, but also because disability law works with people to help them understand what's happening with politics up there and out there, and assist people in standing up and speaking out on critical issues like these. Aotearoa New Zealand ratified the Convention on the Rights of People with Disability in September 2008, a proud and significant moment in the history of disabled people and their organisations. Now we have a ministry and a government apparently determined to turn their backs on all that is meant and signified by the Convention. I hope that the ministry will end up not going down this path. I hope that this community meeting and the people and the groups represented so strongly here today will make the officials and their minister see that the work done by disability law is critical and must be continued, not reduced to a minor component of some centralised call centre. The groups I come from will do everything we can within our own limitations to support the retention of this community law centre, and I wish everyone involved in this mission courage, strength and victory. Kia kaha, kia mana, kia mau.
As we know, we're all here today, I'm just moving a cord, to demonstrate our support for Auckland Disability Law, which faces the very real possibility of closure next year if the Ministry of Justice follows through on its current proposals. Disabled people in New Zealand, because we are disabled, do not have full confidence in our country's legal system. If we find ourselves involved in a legal case, not just as a party, but perhaps even just as a witness, we're afraid that we will be misjudged simply because of our disability. And once we understand why that is, we can better understand why we need an effective disability law service. Now, I would bet money that for all of us in this room who have disabilities, we know that deep feeling of pain that comes from being discriminated against by people who misjudge us because of their misconceptions of our disabilities. Now, we're not alone, of course, because life is full of hard knocks for almost everybody. But it cuts deep into our soul when someone else misjudges us as a person because, for example, we're in a wheelchair, or we have a major speech impediment, or we just can't make eye contact, whatever the reason. Now, as a qualified lawyer, although I'm not currently practicing, I'm aware of just how much our adversarial system of justice relies on the assessment of credibility of the person, whether that person is an accused party, a litigant in a civil proceeding, or just a witness, and whether or not that assessment of credibility is by a judge or a jury. During my time at the High Court, I got to know some judges on an almost personal basis, and I got to appreciate that they do deeply feel the need to make the right decisions, but at the same time they're under a lot of pressure to quickly understand all the evidence put before them, to quickly understand the issues and to make the right decision. And then they must quickly clear their mind and move on to the next case. And it led me to better understand the critical role that lawyers play in how our system of justice works. If a case involves disability in any way, we rely on our lawyer to fully understand how disability relates to the case and then articulate that clearly to the court. Any failure on our lawyer's part is likely to lead to injustice. And let us not forget the possibility that a lawyer on the opposing side might deliberately play the disability card as a tactic to attack our credibility. We know only too well, I think, that we become the focus of attention, that when we become the focus of attention, it is our disability that people see first. So, for example, if you see a man that you know and he's got a stain on his tie, or he's just put a pair of non-matching socks on, you might just laugh it off as nothing more than an instance of a man's absent-mindedness with his wardrobe. But if I stand before you as a blind person with a stain on my tie or odd socks on, your first instinct will be to conclude that this is because I'm a blind person. And somehow we're not entitled to the same lapses of attention as other people. You can easily see, I think, how this way of thinking might impact on something as emotionally charged as, for example, a child custody case involving a parent who is disabled. We all know, I think, that children of all walks of life can be hit with a problem like head lice, for example. We all know, I think, that despite everyone's best intentions, children can get into sometimes tragic difficulties when a parent's attention is distracted even for a moment. But imagine how such instances now involve a child where the primary caregiver is disabled and is seeking to have ongoing custody. It's easy to imagine, I think, how a lawyer on the opposing side could easily have a field day with any such instances and argue that they prove that this is simply not a safe custody arrangement for the child. A fundamental principle of justice is that all people are equal before the law.
It's important that we have people, specialised people, who are very aware of what the barriers are and can help remove these barriers. Because the simple reality is that goodwill is not enough. It's not enough to say, oh, I feel sorry for you because you can't access education or you can't access services. What is needed is a collective will in society to actually remove these barriers. Because what happens when we don't is that all too many people are set on a downward spiral of underachievement in their lifetime. And all too many of these actually end up in our prisons or in institutions. And this is so wrong. One of the figures that really shocked me after I got into Parliament is that between 30 and 40% of prisoners have a hearing loss. And probably, actually, more for some sectors, such as Maori and Pacific Islands. Overseas in Australia, they've done an in-depth study, and Aboriginal people in prison, the rate of hearing loss is about 94%. It's some staggering figure, because of the impact of not picking up information, not hearing and understanding what's going on, not being able to understand the court processes of what the judge is saying and what the people are saying in the court, means that you're much more likely to actually get your sentence and end up in prison as part of an spiral of underachievement. And basically, I regard that some sense that our prisons have ended up as a dumping ground for people that our society has failed. So, I really value Auckland Disability Law and what they do because they have stopped this from happening. And I'd like to just give some case studies of what they've done. There is a younger person who has been put in a rest home but has been given no funding for transport to take her on outing or to go and see her doctor, to community items, or for specific therapy. And she could not, even after years of negotiating, get that support, that funding that she needed. When Auckland Disability Law was involved and they helped negotiate, provide the information, provide the support that's needed, and they won some funding for 2 years. And that funding has now just been removed, so they're having to start all over again. But it is about access to a fundamental right of to participate in society and not be locked away in a rest home, particularly for our young people. Another person wanted to apply to do a course, an open entry course in education. She was told she couldn't do it because she would fail the course. Auckland Disability Law, but one who had the right to participate in this course, and she passed that course with flying colours. Because what their refusal was based on was a kind of blanket assumption that is made, all too often made by able-bodied people about what disabled people can or can't do. When I was standing for Parliament, there were far too many people that told me that I couldn't do it on the sole grounds of my hearing loss. And I'm very pleased to finally made it there and turned around and said, yes, I can do it. What I really want to emphasise, though, is even though we use the term specialist services, which it is, it's not about special rights for disabled people. It's about ensuring that we have access to the same rights as everyone else. In order to have that access, face-to-face contact has been outlined as an incredibly important part of that. And it is, in conclusion, I just want to say it's absolutely vital that the expertise, the knowledge and the services that Auckland Disability Law Service offers is both retained and expanded and offered to other community service law centres across the country. And so far from shutting them down, we should be upholding them as a model of, and as a hub for information, because we need that. So I just want to say I fully support your strive to stay functioning. I commend your dedication, your car papa, and I wish you all the best, and I'll be right behind you all the way.
As a person who sees people with disability law, I work in community agencies. With you gone and the rise of litigation in our society, where are people going to go?
I don't think people will have anywhere to go. Yeah. I mean, the community law centres will deal with the issues that they can, but we got set up to help them to deal with the specialist issues. When we were launched, people were coming to us with enormous boxes full of papers who've been to 10 lawyers already and haven't been able to get a satisfactory answer. We still get some of those cases through, that people just can't find another lawyer who understands what they're talking about. They'll have nowhere to go.
I believe that what we talked about today is very important, because what we're talking about is a community group that cannot easily just walk into a community law centre. There's issues there that they need to make accountable for themselves, whether there's sign language interpreters, whether it's accessible, whether they understand learning disabled. There's a whole range of issues there that are needed. So in order to be able to have those issues met, you need a specialised service. There's no two ways about it. However, that is what's being threatened today. Now, New Zealand's unique in that we're unique in that we're removing one of the only, in fact the only specialist service in the whole country. And this is something that other countries have as a right, and they're not being threatened. But in New Zealand, in the short time we've been here, we've been successful, and that's our problem, is our success has meant that they believe that we're no longer necessary. And it is that success that they need to be saying, well, we need to now take it out to the whole country, not take it away completely. I hope that they reconsider, and I hope that they see it as vital, and that it's vital for the entire country, not just for the country. Thank you.